The Periplus of Erythraean Sea and Ptolemy's geography, both written in Greek, provide valuable data for the study of ancient geography and commerce. The data ascribed to the first arranged between AD 80 and 115, whereas the second is attributed to about AD 150. The Periplus of Erythraean Sea, which was written by an anonymous author, describes the Roman trade in Red Sea, Persian Gulf, and Indian Ocean. Pliny's Naturalis Historia, which relates the first century, was written in Latin and tells us about the trade between India and Italy. The last Greco-Roman scholar who wrote on India was called Cosmas Indicopleustes. He hailed from Alexandria, a center of Hellenistic culture in Egypt. Around 550, he wrote the Christian topography, which mentioned Christians in India and Sri Lanka and also refers to horse trade. Of this Chinese traveler mention may be made of Fa Hien and Heaven Sang. Both of them were Buddhist and came to this country to visit the Buddhist shrines and to study Buddhism. The first came in the beginning of 5th century and the second in second quarter of 7th century. Fa Hien describes the social, religious and economic condition in India in the age of the Guptas, and Hunas Sang present a similar account of India in the age of Harsha. Village study. Relics of communal sharing of feasts, festivals, and pujas throw light on the egalitarian character of ancient tribal society. Loyalty to the clan and caste persists to this day. Survival of ritual give us an idea of ancient sects and also of the institutions of marriage and family. Caste people do not milk the cow and never take to the plow. Their contempt for manual labor promotes untouchability. Strong traces of inequality are not confined to castes along but also colored the relationship between man and woman. Till 1930s, even the sati system prevailed in rural parts of Bihar. Thus, social inequalities which prevail despite universal suffrage indicate the nature of ancient Indian society. Rural rituals and caste prejudices illustrate many of Dharma Shastra rules governing our ancient polity and society. Natural sciences. The use of finding of social sciences started about 30 years ago for the historical construction of ancient India. Recently, the use of natural science has begun. Evidence from chemistry, geology, and biology has become relevant to the study of ancient India. Historical sense. Ancient Indians are charged with a lack of sense of history. It is evident that they did not write history in manner it is done today, nor did they write it in the way the Greeks did. We have a sort of history in Puranas, which are 18 in number. 18 was a conventional term. Though encyclopedia in content, the Puranas provide dynastic history up to the beginning of Gupta rule. They mention the place where the events took place and sometimes discuss their cause and effects. Statement about events are made in the future tense, although they were recorded much after the event had occurred. The author of Puranas were not unaware of the idea of change, which is essence of history. The Puranas speak of four ages called Krita, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. Each succeeding age is depicted as worse than the preceding one, and as one age slides into the other, moral values and social institutions denigrate. The importance of times and place, vital elements in history, is indicated. It is said that dharma becomes adharma and vice versa. The accordance with changes in time and place. Several eras according to which events were recorded were started in an ancient India. Samvat began in 57 to 8 BC, Saka Samvat in AD 78, and Gupta era in AD 319. Inscriptions record events in the context of time and place during the 3rd century BC. Ashokan inscriptions demonstrate considerable historical sense. Ashoka ruled for 37 years. His inscriptions record events that happened from the 8th to the 27th regnal years. The date events relating to only 9 regnal years figured that the inscription that have been discovered. Future discoveries may throw light on events relating to many remaining years of his reign. Similarly, the 1st century BC Kharavela and of Kalinga records a large number of events in his life year by year in the Hathigumpha inscription. Indians display a considerable historical sense in biographical writings, a good example of which is the composition of Harsacharita by Vanbhatta in 7th century. It is the semi-biographical work written in an ornate style which became the despair of later imitator. It describes the early career of Harshavardhana, although highly exaggerated. It gives an excellent idea of court life under Harsha and the social religious life in his age. Later, several other charitas or biographies were written. Sandhyakara Nandi's Ramcharita, 12th century, narrates the story of conflict between the Kaivarta peasants and the Pala Prince Rampala, resulting in the letter of victory. Vihalana, the Vikramanka Devacharita, recounts the achievements of his patron. Vikramaditya 6, 176 to 1100 1076 to 1127, the Chalukya king of Kalyan. Even the biographies, Charita of some merchant of Gujarat, were written in AD 12th 13th centuries. Similar historical works may have been discovered. This is called Mushika Vamsa and was written by Atula in the 11th century. It is an account of dynasty of Mushikas which ruled in northern Kerala. However, the best example of the earlier historical writing is provided by Rajatarangini, or the Stream of Kings, written by Kalhana in the 12th century. It is a string of biographies of kings of Kashmir and can be considered to be the first work of possesses several characteristics of historical writing as it is understood today. constructing history. So far, numerous sites, prehistoric, protohistoric, and historical, have been excavated and explored, but the result do not find a place in the mainstream of ancient Indian history. The stage of social evolution in India cannot be properly comprehended without taking into account the result of prehistoric and protohistoric archaeology, not to speak the historical archaeology. Although nearly 200 sites relating to the ancient historical period have been excavated, yet their relevance to the study of social, economic, and cultural trends in ancient times has not been adequately discussed in survey studies. This needs to be done both in context of rural and urban aspect of ancient India. So far, the significance of largely Buddhist and some Brahmanical sites has been highlighted, but religious history needs to be seen in relation to social and economic developments. Ancient history has so far been constructed principally on the basis of literary sources. Foreign and indigenous coins and inscriptions play some part, but the text received greater weightage. Now new method must be adopted. Historical knowledge keeps growing. We had to be more critical about the dates and contents of the text. This may be done if we examine the text in the context of archaeological evidence. Initially, archaeologists were inspired to written text, and several sites mentioned in the Brahmanical and Buddhist texts were excavated. This immensely enriched historical information, though the digging result did not always confirm the context of the text, though full length reports of many excavated sites are not to be published. It is advisable to examine the text in the context of archaeological findings for the study of the age of the Rig Veda. We have to take into account of Gandhara grave culture, in which the horse was used and the dead were cremated in the second millennium BC. We have to establish a correlation between the later Vedic on the one hand and painted graveware and other type of archaeological finds on the other hand. Similarly, early Pali texts have to be related to the northern black polished ware archaeology. Besides, the information derived from the Sangam text needs to be correlated with the inferred from inscriptions and early megalith archaeology in peninsular India. Archaeological evidence should be considered far more important than the long family tree found in the Puranas. The Purana tradition could be used to date Rama of Ayodhya to around 200 BC, but diggings and extensive exploration in Ayodhya do not show any settlement around the date. Similarly, although Krishna plays an important role in Mahabharata, the earliest inscription and sculptural pieces from Mathura between 200 BC and AD 300 do not attest to his presence. Given such difficulties, the ideas of an epic age based on the Ramayana and Mahabharata must be disca- discarded, although in the past it formed a chapter in most survey volumes on ancient India. Of course, several stages of social evolution in both the Ramayana and Mahabharata can be detected. This is so because the epic do not belong to a single phase of social evolution. We may recall that they have undergo several editions further on the basis of literary traditions and epigraphic material. Vardhamana, Mahavira, and Gautam Buddha are generally dated to the 6th century BC, but the sites they visited are archaeologically not older than 400 BC, and therefore the tradition based the dates on these great personalities need to be reconsidered. On chronological and rational grounds, archaeology inscriptions are coins are more important than text. However, the grammatical works of Panini Patanjali have almost fixed dates, and they are comparatively free from myths and legends, and are therefore as important as coins, inscriptions, and the results of excavations. Many inscriptions have to date been dismissed on the ground that they are of little historical value. Historical value is taken to mean information necessary to reconstruct political history. However, a royal inscription contains exaggeration. The term hundred of thousands seems to be a cliche in Ashokan inscription. It is applied to people and animals and raised doubts about the number of people killed in Kalinga war and those brought to Pataliputra. There are exaggerations too in the inscriptions of Samudragupta the king and King Chandra. Despite these exaggerations, in comparison to Puranic traditions, inscriptions are certainly more reliable. Thus, though the Puranas are used to be pushed back the origin of the Sadhvanas, the inscriptions place it in the 1st century BC. Inscriptions may indicate the regional period of a king, his conquest, and its extent, but they may also reveal trends in the development of polity, society, economy, and religion. This study, therefore, does not use inscriptions merely for political and religious history. Epigraphic land grants are valuable not for the family trees and lists of conquest, but more importantly for the rise of new states and changes in the social and agrarian structure, particularly in post Gupta times. Similarly, coins need to be used not only for reconstruction of the history of Indo Greeks, Shakas, and Sattvahanas and Kushanas, but also for the history of trade and urban life. In sum, a careful collection of material derived from text, coins, inscription, and archaeology, etc., is essential for historical reconstruction. We have seen that this raises the problem of the relative importance of sources. Thus, coins, inscriptions, and archaeology are considered more important than mythological found in the epics and Puranas. Mythologies may support the dominant norms, validate social mores, and justify the privileges and disabilities of people organized in caste and other social groups, but the event described in them cannot be taken to be true. Past practices can also be explained with the help of some ancient survival in our own times. Familiarly with village life and other and the insights derived from the study of primitive people are vulnerable assets in the construction of ancient history. A sound of historical reconstruction cannot ignore developments in other ancient societies. A comparative view may remove the obsession with the idea of rare or in ancient India and may bring out those traits that ancient India share with the past societies of the other countries. We may also use the result of human genetic research to learn about Indian connection with peoples in other parts of world. A scientific study of heredity and generation wise inherited traits indicate ethnic mixture, dispersal of population and dissemination of culture.